mad slasher movie. This one is called Visiting Hours, starring William Shatner and also Lee Grant as a TV broadcaster who enters a hospital after a creep attacks her because he doesn't like her strong opinions, doesn't like aggressive women. Why? It turns out that his mother once threw boiling water on his father. Too bad she picked the wrong man in the family to douse. Visiting Hours consists of nothing more than the slasher stalking Lee Grant in a hospital. Along the way, he suffocates an old woman, tortures a little girl, and repeatedly sticks a knife into the belly of a young nurse. A sick film, and for the life of me, I don't understand why an actress of the caliber of Lee Grant is in it, or an actor of the caliber of William Shatner is in it. I guess it's money. It's too bad.
It is too bad. My Dog of the Week this week the award doesn't go to a movie, Gene, it goes to a Hollywood studio. I'm giving Universal Pictures the Dog of the Week award because of their decision to withdraw a movie named Barbarossa from release before it ever had a chance to really prove itself. The movie was directed by Fred Shepsey, the Australian filmmaker who made a brilliant film called The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith, and the movie stars Gary Busey, remember him from the Buddy Holly story, who won an Oscar nomination, and Willie Nelson, the country outlaw, is a legendary Western outlaw. So there's one of my favorite directors, two of my favorite actors, and what's more, Gene, I've read about this movie in a review by you. You gave it a good review in the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah, I thought it was terrific, but you know, I had to drive 50 miles to Michigan City, Indiana to see this in an indoor theater. They had thrown it away in just a half a dozen drive-ins.
Well, anyway, I was at the Cannes Film Festival when it played here. When I asked for a chance to see the movie so we could review it on sneak previews, Universal's response was that the movie had been pulled out of release and put on the shelf, said the movie wasn't making it. I say, give this movie a chance.
Right.
Could it possibly be that somebody at Universal, an executive, didn't want to see the movie succeed once they reached an executive decision that it wasn't going to make it? I think that's really too bad. And I say, if Universal wants me to withdraw my Dog of the Week award, show me this movie.
Okay, well, I hope they do, and I think you'd really enjoy it. It's terrific.
Well, my dog this week is a Kung Fu extravaganza named the Seven Grand Masters, and I thought maybe with the World Chess Championship just being over, why, this would show Kung Fu champions breaking chessboards with their bare hands, but no, the only pawns in this movie are in the audience.
Getting rooked.
Right. The film follows the adventures of a would-be Kung Fu Grandmaster who vows to challenge and defeat the seven reigning Grandmasters, including, now let's see, you have the Tiger Grandmaster, the Python Grandmaster, the Eagle Grandmaster, the Rat Grandmaster, and so forth. The hero and his gung-ho groupies march from one showdown to the next, reducing each Grandmaster to a bloody, quivering hulk in the dust, and then always politely thanking them afterwards. Occasionally, everybody stops for dinner, and the groupies sit around eating chicken heads, while meanwhile, the new Grandmaster says things like, tomorrow I must fight again. Well, you'd fight too if you got the drumstick.
Very good. Well, I've got something special for my Dog of the Week, a dog that isn't a dog. Let me explain. It's going to take a while. People ask me a lot, how do you and Roger find all these Dogs of the Week? Well, a lot of them find us in the course of our reviewing virtually every new commercial film that's in town. But if we haven't seen a dog all week and it's kind of getting close to time to do this show, we will both look through our local newspaper movie ads and go see a film that sounds like it might be a dog. Well, this week I went to a film called Adios Amigo, a Western that was being billed as starring Richard Pryor. And I must admit, although it isn't my policy to prejudge a movie, I will admit that, yes, I had a feeling Adios Amigo just might be a dog. I didn't think Richard Pryor had made a new film by that title, certainly not a Western, which is what Adios Amigo turned out to be. And so my dog-sniffing instincts told me, go see that movie. Well, Adios Amigo is not a new Richard Pryor movie. In fact, it's an old movie, written, produced, directed, and co-starring Fred Williamson, along with Pryor. But this is important. It's not a dog. Pryor is hilarious in scene after scene. You can see him early in his career, even though some of the filmmaking is pretty amateurish. So, I don't have a dog this week, just a shaggy dog story of my search for one.
So it has a happy ending.
And at least we're being honest. We're not going to force a dog into the show if there isn't one.
Very big of you.
If there's a theme to my Dogs of the Week, it's the various ways film companies try to trick us with, for example, phony Bruce Lee karate movies and fraudulent discoveries of Noah's Ark. Now, my dog this week involves another trick, putting a new title on an old film. In 1974, an Italian sex comedy called Malizia was released. It wasn't very successful, but its young female star, the beautiful Laura Antonelli, has now gone on to become quite a sex symbol in such new films as The Innocent and Wife Mistress. So Malizia has been trotted out again, but retitled Malicious. Unfortunately, it's still the same old Malizia, a peekaboo sex comedy about a wealthy Italian widower who wants to marry his beautiful servant, but he has to fight one of his jealous sons for her affections. The high point in the picture, of course, comes when Laura Antonelli takes off her clothes in front of that little kid. And that lasts about 5 or 6 minutes. Unfortunately, Malicia, or malicious, it lasts nearly 100.
Gene, you think you're unfortunate. Let me tell you about My Dog this week. At least your movie had a nude scene with Laura Antonelli.
Yeah.
My Dog this week only has a kissing scene with Valerie Bertinelli. It's called Chomps, which stands for Canine Home Protection System, and it's a slow-moving, badly acted imitation Disney picture in which Bertinelli, who was from TV's One Day at a Time, plays the girlfriend of a young scientist who's locked himself into the garage and invented a computerized watchdog.
Watch this.
Ryan, what are you doing?
There you are. 3 years of hard work.
You built a watchdog.
An electronic watchdog. Computerized, self-activating mobile crime deterrent, unlike any watchdog that ever existed.
What a great dog, huh? Man's best computer. It has all sorts of built-in scientific gadgets, like, for example, it can see through solid walls and run faster than a car and push over trees. And not only can it bark, but it can also make the sounds of machine guns and train whistles. So eat your heart out, Spot. That dog's so smart, I'll bet it's even housebroken.
Made you forget his name.
Right.
Well, now, so much for the dog. Film I've ever seen ever to cross an earthworm with a bear and come up with a very silly monster.
On the basis of that set of mostly negative opinions, I think we should have invited Spot to sit in with us for the entire show.
You know, that happens a lot in the summer. There are a lot of lousy pictures in the summer. From readers, and we
right.
talked about them on the air, and we also solicited them. Well, we got a whole bunch of letters since then, a couple hundred as a matter of fact. I've got one, you read a couple.
Okay.
The letters seem to fall in two camps. The one that I'll deal with was talking in movie theaters. Here's a letter from Mar Vista, California, Max Lent and Tina Lent. They say the problem talking in theaters is getting worse. No one seems to say anything about it. I've been saying things about it for years, you too. I once advertised in the Tribune, the paper that I work for in Chicago, that I would pay $5 to any usher who would get rid of a crying baby. No usher has done it. You can't rely on ushers. They're not paid enough. They get minimum wage. They're not going to go after people they can't see in the dark. What to do? I have one good trick. I will frequently, if someone's talking, say, hey, I'm a movie critic. I'm trying to earn my living here. Can you please be quiet? And what happens is I think that people really respond to somebody trying to make a living in a movie theater. So say you're a movie critic, you may quiet people down. If they won't quiet down immediately, I get up and move. I don't want to fight in a movie theater. I want to watch the flick.
We'll have a plague of movie critics. I have a strategy. I don't know if it works very well. Whichever door I enter the theater by, where the popcorn counter is, I go to the other side of the auditorium to sit. So I'm as far away from the popcorn counter as I can get. Most people get their popcorn and they can't wait to race into the theater, sit down, and start eating it, right? So I'm further away from the largest concentration
of people. Go to the far door.
People. Yeah, but it doesn't really work, but it's an idea.
Okay.
Here we got 3 letters on the same question here. One from Gainesville, Florida, from April McKinsey. Also letters from Plattsburgh, New York, and Fresno, California. They want to know, how do you get to be a movie critic, and what did you major in college before you began to be a film critic? Well, I didn't take film courses in college because the university I went to didn't teach film at that time. It wasn't considered to be a serious enough academic subject. I took English courses and journalism courses, and then when I went to work for the Sun-Times, I was a feature writer. And I was just lucky enough to be there when the film critic's job opened up and it was offered to me. So I guess I was just in the right place at the right time.
I have the same story to tell. I majored in philosophy. I had no particular experience in film. I was working at the Tribune as first a reporter, then a feature writer just like you. And the job was vacated. I was asked to fill it. And sort of the only way I learned it was on-the-job training.
Me too. I used to say I have no academic credentials for this job, but I have 12 years of experience. Which is
We'll give you the address where you can write us for some more questions that you might have. We'll give you that in a few seconds. First, let's recap our... Well, my dog this week is The Fan, the story of a crazed fan who has fixated his love and hatred on a film and Broadway star played by Lauren Bacall. This is no cheapy production, but the story is as low rent as you can get. The movie simply presents this fan stalking Bacall for an hour and a half. When he can't get to her, he starts cutting up those people close to her. We see standard mad slasher attacks in bloody detail. This film is a dog because it's not about fans or stars. It's about knife attacks. You pay $4, you get to see Lauren Bacall squirm. It's a crude, exploitive film that is particularly disturbing because now big name stars apparently are getting into the mad slasher movie parade. Awful.
Well, my dog this week is another artless and disgusting mad slasher movie named The Burning. I don't know if the people who made The Burning know the people who made Friday the 13th Part 2, but they ought to get together. They could save a lot of money on scripts because both of these movies tell almost exactly the same story. A bunch of kids go to summer camp and hear legends about the abandoned camp on the other side of the lake. Years ago, so they say, a man was killed over there in a tragic accident, but they say he never died. His body was never discovered. He still lurks in the woods, ready to pounce on unsuspecting teenage campers. In Friday the 13th Part 2, the avenging monster was almost drowned. In The Burning, he was almost burned to death. That's the only important plot difference between these two movies, which are otherwise just a series of shots of screaming teenagers being hacked to pieces. If I see one more teenager cut up in the movies this summer, and I'm afraid that I will, I'm going to start thinking of the Beach Party movies as masterpieces.
You know, here we go again, and it's really disturbing, particularly the fan for me, because, you know, it's one thing when you see these cheapy tax shelter deals with no stars and people just trying to break into the movies any way they can so they take a horror film. But in the fan, Maureen Stapleton, one of the great American actresses, on film or on stage, gets sliced in the head twice. Lauren Bacall is held at knife point. What's that all about? I tell you, it's really becoming a rotten time at the movies for us.
It's sick, but you know, it's funny, the teenage audiences for these films probably don't know who Lauren Bacall and Maureen Stapleton are. They'll go to The Burning just as easily as to The Fan, as long as they see the TV ads of axes and hatchets and knives and scissors and so forth. We must have seen 25 or 30 of these movies each by now, and I'm getting totally sick of them. I hope eventually we're going to get to the end of this cycle.
It won't run out this summer, though, because the summertime is when they really come on in force.
We still have some more of these already in the can.
Well, I don't have a dog, Roger, although I did go looking for one. The film I had suspected of being a dog, because it was being played off like a routine action picture in Chicago theaters, was The Challenge, an Oriental martial arts film directed by John Frankenheimer, the erratic director of such good films as The Manchurian Candidate and The Birdman of Alcatraz, and such weak films as French Connection 2 and The Gypsy Moths. The Challenge falls somewhere in between those films in quality, but it is definitely not a dog. In fact, I sort of like The Challenge, which tells the story of an American punk played by Scott Glenn who gets caught up in the breakdown of a centuries-old tradition of fathers passing down a matched set of old swords to their sons. The swords were recently separated in a bloody family dispute, and the American's job is to try to bring those swords together for the film's good guy, Toshiro Mifune, the great Japanese actor playing one of the great warring brothers in this film.
いよいよその時が来たようだな。仕方あるまい。あんたは殺されないとわからないようだな。この刀はどのようなことがあっても日本一継いでなければならん。刀は日本とも私のものだ。あんたは名誉のために死ね。それが望みだろう。
The film has action scenes, memorable characters, and a strong code of honor and tradition, so I expected a dog and ended up having a fine time at The Challenge. And surprises like that are one of the greatest pleasures of moviegoing and film criticism. You like Barbarossa, my recommendation? Try The Challenge.
Okay, but I did not have a surprise like that. I found a dog. In fact, this week I've arrived at some kind of a milestone. I think I've discovered the single most inept, improbable, inartistic, and inane dog of the week of my entire career, and it's called Frankenstein Island. It stars John Carradine and Keimer Mitchell and other people who ought to know better in a completely bizarre story about these hot air balloonists who crash land on a mysterious island. They meet a lot of girls in leopard skin bikinis who do snake charming dances, and they learn that the island has a weird electrical force that causes their hands to burn painfully whenever they mention the words Kansas City or Miami. The shipwrecked balloonists meet a woman. Frankenstein doesn't like to be reminded of the places where he was unhappy. Then they meet a woman in a low-cut gown who introduces herself just, "Hi, I'm Sheila Frankenstein, but I don't like to use my married name." Well, who can blame her? You know, the greatest thing in this movie is first you see stock newsreel footage of balloons about a mile up in the air.
Right.
Then you see these guys walking over over the beach saying, "Well, my balloon crashed." You know, you never actually see the balloon crash.
Okay, that saves money.